Iowa is one of the Republicans who wants a new speaker. He joins me now. Congressman, why do you want a new speaker? What's wrong with John Boehner?
Well, this goes back to a long history, but if I take you back to 2010 and Obamacare, it was clear there was a wave election. 87 new freshman Republicans. Every Republican pledged to repeal Obamacare. I brought the amendment to cut all funding to implement or enforce Obamacare. I was blocked procedurally by an act that I think was the Speaker's. And then it took 2.5 years for that to finally work its way through the system.
Yeah.
We had a government shutdown, but we've got to control and manage this Constitution. The President's violating it at will. And the actions of the Speaker have prevented us from keeping our oath to defend the Constitution and restore the authority of Congress.
Well, what would you say to those who say what you are proposing is passing more legislation that the Senate could never pass, and even if they could, President Obama would veto? So what you're suggesting would be a number of votes that would make you and people like you feel good, but wouldn't accomplish anything and might even make the rest of the country come to hate Washington even more.
One might make that argument, but I would say you need to do the right thing. And whatever seat you're in, whatever your vote is, you have to keep your oath to uphold the Constitution, preserve and protect the rule of law. That means pass the legislation, that the tools that you have, send it over to the Senate, and it's on their conscience, and the voters have an opportunity to judge that. The antithesis of that is we're funding the President's unconstitutional acts. Now, Obamacare is funded fully all the way out to the end of the fiscal year, and you can argue its constitutionality, but I don't think it's arguable that the President's edict for executive amnesty is unconstitutional, and it's funded into February 27th with no real tools to restrain that. We've seen this movie before. I don't want to watch it again, Jake.
And lastly on this issue, and then I want to talk about presidential politics, the people who have talked about running for Speaker against Boehner are Ted Yoho from Florida, Louis Gohmert from Texas. Anyone else?
Well, I would say we should anticipate the name of Daniel Webster coming forward.
Also
from Florida as well. He's a former Speaker of the Florida House. I've been talking with Dan for the last 2.5 years. He's a great respecter of the institution of the Congress. And I think Democrats and Republicans want to see the institution restored so that the voice and the will of this republic can come from the American people through their elected members of Congress. Right now, it's leadership's making the decisions and leadership staff are making the decisions. That's got to change. Dan would be helpful in changing that. So I'd support any one of the three. I've been talking with Dan for 2.5 years on this.
All right. Let's talk about politics more broadly when it comes to presidential politics, because as people likely know, you are a Republican power broker in Iowa. Mike Huckabee announced over the weekend that he's going to leave Fox, and he is contemplating running. He obviously won the Iowa caucus in 2008. What do you make of his chances?
Well, certainly he's got a strong base in Iowa. It's really interesting to see that he's made this. It's a bold move now, and it sends a clear message that I think all of us anticipate he'll be an announced candidate fairly soon. But he's got a good base with the Evangelical Foundation in Iowa, with the Christian base in Iowa, and he's got a good base with the fair tax. I think it helps our debate a lot to see Mike Huckabee step in. He actually starts with a bit of a head start over some of the other candidates.
Is that right? What about Jeb Bush? He will not be attending your Freedom Summit, the Iowa Freedom Summit, according to his office. It's a scheduling conflict. But do you think it's possible that he doesn't want to be associated with you?
You know, I can't quite speculate that. And we contacted Governor Bush, Jeb Bush, some months ago, a couple of months ago or longer, as I recall. And at that point, he had a scheduling conflict. And I think I know what it is, but it's up to him to say that. I respect him for keeping his commitments to a scheduling conflict that he has. You know, when people commit to an event that we're organizing, if they decided they would just change their mind at the last minute, I wouldn't appreciate that. And so I think he's good to his word. He's not afraid of confrontation. He's not afraid of verbal combat. I've seen him engage on issues he believes in, and sometimes they're not particularly popular, but he believes in them and he engages in them. So I don't anticipate this is anything other than a scheduling conflict. And I hope if he moves forward in this attempt at, or this candidacy that we see emerging, I hope that he comes to Iowa a lot. And I would remind people that I think that skipping Iowa is not a very good idea.
Right.
And since Ronald Reagan, it has taken a victory in the Ames straw poll and a victory in the Iowa caucus in order to be nominated and be elected president as a Republican. And by the way, the only two people who have done that since Reagan are his father and his brother.
I want to talk about somebody who is attending the Iowa Freedom Summit with Governor Chris Christie, who got some attention last night when he was sitting in the owner's box at the Dallas Cowboys game. He headlined a fundraiser for you in October where he said, "I will be a supporter of Steve King for as long as he continues to be in public life. Can you say the same about him? You're going to be a supporter of Chris Christie as long as he's in public life, including if he runs for president?
That is an extraordinary compliment for anyone to receive, and I'm very, very flattered. And I like Chris Christie, and I count him as a friend. And I've watched him also in the firing line when he was brought forward for his, I'll say, political execution before the Judiciary Committee when John Conyers was chair. That's when I got to see the core of the mettle of Chris Christie. There's a big competition out here, and I'm not going to choose sides, at least early on. I want to have a level playing field, and I'm encouraging these candidates to come to Iowa. And I hope to be in New Hampshire and South Carolina, too. This is a thrilling endeavor that Americans have, and a wonderful chance to choose the best one out of 320 million to lead us.
I'm excited to cover it, too. Next time, I'm not going to let you off the hook this easy, but it is early. Thank you so much, Congressman.